Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a potential major winter storm for portions of the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and parts of the interior Northeast. Some of these areas could be picking up as much as 6 to 8 or even more inches of snowfall, so we'll be breaking down your forecast for you guys, and we're only going to be talking about the first part of the system in today's video. We're not going to be talking about that second low pressure system that might come out of the Gulf states and then move up into portions of the central U.S. We're not going to be talking about that one in today's video just because there is still so much uncertainty, but I will be giving you my snowfall forecast for the first part of this system, which is going to be impacting these areas probably from tonight into Thursday morning. So definitely it's going to be a wide-ranging system. It's going to be impacting areas from the Rockies all the way through portions of the interior Northeast. So let's get right into it here, and we're also going to be talking about your severe weather aspect of this, because for some areas in the Southeast we have a fairly high severe weather risk as we go through the later part of this work week and then into the weekend. So here's the current National Weather Service page. We have some winter storm watches in effect for portions of Washington State, as well as some freezing fog advisories for portions of Wyoming, Oregon, and Washington there. We also have some winter weather advisories in effect scattered throughout portions of the Rockies and then back through into the central and northern plains. We also have some winter storm warnings in effect for portions of southern Wyoming, as well as parts of southern Colorado and portions of southern California there, and then another area for central Iowa, and that's all from the system that's going to be taking place from tonight into about Thursday morning. We also have some winter storm watches in effect for a small area of eastern Iowa, northwestern Illinois, and southwestern Wisconsin. And then we have some wind advisories in effect for portions of Arizona and New Mexico there. So let's start talking about your winter storm, and we're going to start off with your NAM 3CAM model. So here it is, and we're going to talk about when you should be expecting that snow to roll in. We also have an ice aspect with this, because some areas could be dealing with some sizable ice accumulation over a tenth of an inch, and I'll also be giving you my ice accumulation forecast at the end of the video. So this is the NAM 3CAM model, and let's start off tonight, and this would be probably right around 3 p.m. This afternoon Central Time, and we're looking at some of that snow moving into portions of Utah, Colorado, Kansas, and into Nebraska by this point. And until it hits about Kansas and Nebraska, it's going to be a mainly snow system. As it starts to head into the plains, you will start to see some warm air kick into there over that southern edge of that system, and you'll actually start to see some freezing rain set up over Kansas and Missouri. So as we play this through, you start to see that by right around this would be right around 6 p.m. Central Time, and then as we move to right around 9 p.m., we're looking at that band of snow move even further to the north, and now it's into Nebraska, Kansas, and even into South Dakota and parts of Wyoming there. And as we continue this forward, you start to see that by right around 12 p.m. Central Time, or 12 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday morning, we're looking at some of that snow now really engulfing portions of the Central Plains, so into Nebraska, and now starting to get into South Dakota. Some of these areas are getting some moderate to heavy snowfall. And don't be surprised if you get a couple of bands of maybe 1 or 2 inches per hour in those darker blues. So there could definitely be some isolated heavier accumulations, but the heaviest accumulations I think will be right in around the Great Lakes, around Iowa, Wisconsin, and into Michigan, and around this area where some of the models are indicating closer to 6 to 8 or even more inches of snowfall. So as we move through the day on Tuesday, this would be right around 3 a.m. Central Time. Here's by right around 6 a.m. and here's by 9 a.m. And this is when the system really starts to evolve. We're seeing some of that snowfall now moving into the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Iowa. And then we're seeing in that orange, that's where you're looking at sleet. And then in the purple and that pink area, that's where you're looking at some of that freezing rain. So we are dealing with a mixture of sleet and freezing rain along northern Kansas. And then we're looking at some scattered showers to the south of there, but again, the main impacts are going to actually be from about northern Kansas northward, where you're going to be dealing with a mixture of ice and or snow. And actually the ice might be a bigger issue, because ice can definitely cause a lot more issues than even snowfall can in some cases. So definitely don't brush off this ice, because it could definitely cause a couple of roadway issues. And then as we move through time, here would be by right around noontime on Tuesday. So noontime tomorrow, we're looking at some of that snow moving into portions of Iowa and Minnesota by this point. And again, closer to that rain snow line, that's where you're looking at some of the heavier bands of snowfall. So over southern Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, some of those areas could be picking up quite a bit of snowfall, and some of those snowfall rates could again be 1 or maybe 1.5 or 2 inches per hour in some cases. So they could definitely be very, very, very strong bands of snowfall. And as we move this forward, you start to see that right around 3 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, and then here it'll be by 6 p.m. It's starting to move into the Great Lakes. Northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and much of Minnesota by this point is getting impacted with some snowfall. It's going to be interesting to see how far north does that band of snowfall actually get. Some models don't bring that snowfall all the way up into northern Minnesota and northern North Dakota. That's something that I'm tracking because that could definitely have a big implication if you live within this area of northern Minnesota and northern North Dakota. You will have some dry air on that back end that might help suppress some of that snowfall. So definitely, I don't think you'll see as heavy snowfall on that northern edge. It's going to be on that southern edge of that snowfall, closer to that rain snow line, where you're going to get some of those heavier amounts of snowfall. And as we move this forward, you start to see that right around 9 p.m. Central Time, we're looking at still a lot of that snow and kind of an arm of snow moving through lower Michigan, and much of Wisconsin by this point is into some of that snowfall. And then as we continue this forward, you start to see that that ice continues to head northward, but so does that snowfall. Again, we have that band of snowfall moving through portions of Michigan and now getting into portions of Ohio. But again, we have that bigger area of snowfall down through southern Wisconsin and northeastern Iowa, where you guys are dealing with some fairly hefty snowfall. Again, maybe 1 or even 2 inches per hour in some cases. And then as we continue this forward, you start to see that by right around 3 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, and then into right around 6 a.m. Here's by 9 a.m. And the system is really starting to break apart by this point. You're actually starting to see more lake effect throughout these regions. This isn't really from the system. It's more of just lake effect off the Great Lakes. So the system is really moving out by this point. You see a lingering line of rain showers by Wednesday morning, right around 9 a.m. And then that snowfall is pushed away to the north, the northern half of the lower peninsula of Michigan, and then back through into Ontario and Quebec, Canada, are looking at potentially a little bit more snowfall before the system all wraps up. And then as we move through time, here to be by 12 p.m. and then here to be by right around 3 p.m. Here's by 6 p.m. on Wednesday, and still we're looking at mainly rain or snow showers on and off through Wednesday evening, but nothing that's going to be of significance as we head through the day on Wednesday. I think the main event will happen on Tuesday. Now, here's something else that we have to talk about: your severe weather risk with this, because we do have some sort of severe weather risk with this. This is going from Tuesday morning through Wednesday morning from the Storm Prediction Center, and they have a marginal risk of severe weather straight through the central part of Texas there, and then we have a 5% chance of wind damage, no threat of tornadoes or hail from that. Here's your day 3 outlook. And we actually have, from Wednesday morning to Thursday morning, we have a marginal risk of severe weather for southeastern Texas, and we have a 5% chance of any severe weather. And even though that sounds low, that does still mean that you have a fairly good shot of seeing at least a couple of rumbles of thunder, or seeing some lightning, or maybe even some wind damage out of this system. And then also something that's been brought to my attention is that the Storm Prediction Center has actually put up a day 4 and day 5 outlook, and they actually had this all the way through the day 6 outlook yesterday, but of course now that this is getting closer, it's now in the day 4 to 5 time frame. But when they put something out on that day 6 time frame, that is very, very major, and they usually don't do that. They usually like to wait till about the day 1 through 3 time period to put up some sort of risk. So when they put up one of these preliminary 15 or 30% chances, that indicates that they have a fairly strong probability that this is going to happen. The 15% risk actually means that you have a slight risk. It's the equivalent of a slight risk. A 30% chance is the equivalent of an enhanced risk, and we don't have a 30% chance, but we have a 15% chance for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the western panhandle of Florida from Thursday into Friday. But as we go through Friday into Saturday, that area shifts eastward, and now we're looking at Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina into that 15% or slight risk of severe weather, and that's on day 5. Again, they rarely, even in the summertime time will put up a day 5 through day 8 risk. Sometimes you see it on day 4, maybe sometimes you see it on day 5, but yesterday they had it out on day 6, and that really is something that kind of got to my attention. It really is interesting how early they put it up, and they must be seeing something very, very intriguing or very, very interesting with the system. And here are a couple of the parameters. So something that is probably not going to be too big of a factor is the CAPE. We don't have a lot of energy in the atmosphere. We do have some values over about 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram, but that's not really going to be enough to support really the biggest thunderstorms. And you can see how that really dies out as you go to the Carolinas. Once that system heads further eastward, you're only looking at CAPE values anywhere between about 50 and about 250 in some isolated areas there, there, and so the energy really isn't there. So when you're just looking at the CAPE, just a surface level look at the CAPE, you're not looking at anything major or of significance, and you might be questioning why they put out that 15% risk. But when you look at the dew points, they are very, very high. If you look at this, we have dew points over about 65 in a lot of these areas, over Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the western panhandle of Florida. And when I read their discussion, this is what they were talking about. They were talking about a very moisture ridden or a very moisture involved atmosphere, where you're looking at a lot of warm temperatures and a lot of moist air in the atmosphere, and that's going to allow some thunderstorms. So this is as it's over the south central U.S. and the central Gulf states, and then as we head this forward, you start to see 67 dew points, 68 dew points in some isolated areas, and you only really need dew points of about 55 to 60 to get some decent thunderstorms. So we definitely have enough dew points of sufficient of getting some thunderstorms. And then if we look at some of your wind shear, we definitely have enough wind shear for this, because we do have a fairly split jet stream flow, where we're looking at some of that wind shear moving into portions of the southeast, right around where they highlighted that 15% chance of severe weather. So definitely we don't have any issues with moisture or with wind shear and with that. And I think that's mainly the reason that they put up that 15% risk this far in advance, which they usually don't do. So here's my forecast, and let's start off with the rainfall forecast. Under an inch of rainfall anywhere in this green, this is where you might just get a light grazing of rain before it either switches over to ice or it switches over to snowfall. But if you live in this area, 1 to 2 inches of rainfall is expected from Kansas, Missouri, Illinois eastward into the Ohio Valley, and this is where you could be getting a little bit more rainfall and definitely a little bit more substantial amounts of rainfall. And then 2 to 3 inches of rainfall for south central Missouri there, and that's where I think you could have some heavier bands of rainfall move throughout those regions, and that could really bring up some of your rainfall totals. And then next week's system might even bring you guys some ice or snow accumulation, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a later video. Here's the ice accumulation forecast. Under 1/10 of an inch of ice is expected from these areas from Kansas and eastern Colorado northeastward into portions of the lower Great Lakes. Not a whole lot, but still can cause some isolated travel issues. But the heavier areas of ice, I think, are going to be in these regions. One centered over northern Illinois and some of the surrounding areas, and then another one for southwestern Kansas, where you guys could be dealing with probably closer to 1/10 of an inch to maybe 2/10 of an inch of ice there. So this can definitely be an issue, and I think over southwestern Kansas, you might even see a couple pockets closer to 3/10 of an inch of ice. So that could definitely be an issue there. And then here's your snowfall forecast. Starting off in the Rockies, we're going to be dealing with some mountain snow that's going to vary very dramatically. So definitely check your local National Weather Service. They have very detailed forecasts for each individual area based on your elevation. So you can go to them. They'll give you a very detailed forecast, but on my map style, it just wouldn't work, where I would have to draw each individual mountaintop there. So check your local National Weather Service if you live within this gray region. But if you live within this blue region, this is where I'm expecting some sort of flaky activity, where you're seeing some snowflakes flying from the air, or maybe even seeing a dusting on the ground, or maybe even a light accumulation there. That's where, if you're in this light blue, that's what you should be expecting. But if you live in this darker blue, this medium shade of blue, this is where you're looking at 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. So this is where you're getting a decent accumulation of snowfall. Here's that 3 to 6 inch area, and you see that from the Rockies eastward through Nebraska, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, and into Wisconsin and Michigan there, where you're looking at over 3 inches, and this is where you're getting a decent accumulation, and then this is where I think you're going to get the biggest accumulations. Some of those amounts over northern Michigan and the UP of Michigan are lake effect enhanced, but over Iowa, northwestern Illinois, and southwestern Wisconsin, I'm expecting maybe 6 to 10 inches in some areas, and some models even putting out closer to 12 inches of snowfall, and I think those are a little bit overdone, but definitely we could be seeing some 6+ inch amounts if you do live within this area, and it'll definitely be interesting to track how this does occur. Tomorrow's video won't be about this specific storm, but it'll actually be about another one right after it that's going to be impacting a very similar region. So just because this system will already have been underway, so I'll be talking about another system in tomorrow's video. And also, some of you guys have been wondering, when am I going to put out my January forecast and when I'm going to put out my spring forecast. My January forecast is coming out on New Year's Eve, and then my spring forecast is going to be coming out on New Year's Day, most likely. So I'm going to start preparing those in the near future, and they should be out within another couple of days. So definitely Happy New Year's to everybody, and I'll probably be putting those out on New Year's Day and New Year's Eve so that you guys can enjoy them as we start the new year. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.